This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to the fields, the hills, the forests, and the mountains. Way back in the day to settle some of our places. We're talking about Catan, or formerly known as Settlers of Catan. This is a milestone in gaming, a bookend if you will. This is the new 5th edition version. You'll notice it doesn't say Settlers of Catan anymore. It just says Catan. So they've rebranded this. This is for 3 to 4 players. It is 60 minutes, and this is sort of a bookend of the modern day of board gaming. So let me show you how it's played, and I'll see you on the side, see what I think about it. Now here's the basic setup for Settlers of Catan in the rulebook. Now keep in mind that you can also set this up as sort of semi-custom in some ways in the back of the rulebook. You can also have a fully customized way where the board is different every time and you start in different places every time. But this is the way it has you start for your first game. Here we have it set up for 4 players. We have orange, blue, white, and red, and the setup is there. You'll notice each player has 2 buildings, what are called settlements, and 1 road. At the beginning of each game, each player is going to take some goods from the area that they're in. So for example, this player will take 1 ore for being in the mountain, and 2 wheats for being next to 2 fields. And the other players will also do so. Which one of these you take those from are just in the basic setup. Now in this game you're trying to get 10 points to win, and you do so by building settlements, or upgrading your settlements to cities, or building development cards where some of those are worth points. And you can gain victory points by having the current longest road or largest army in the game. Let's talk about how a turn works. Now at the beginning of the turn, someone will roll these 2 dice, and let's say they rolled a 6. Now anywhere you see a 6, those fields or those hexes are going to produce. You'll notice the 6s and 8s, they're closest to the number 7, which is the most often number rolled with 2 dice. So the closest ones are red, just to give you a visualization. And the smaller ones, the smaller numbers with the less pips actually have less chance of being rolled. The ones with more pips have more chances of being rolled. So we go here, and even if it was my turn, let's say I was orange and I rolled a 6, well, orange is on this field. And so because this is a wheat field, they will collect 1 wheat because I have a settlement that is touching this 6. In addition to this 6 will also produce, and these are the hills, and they will get some brick. So the white player and the red player will both get brick, and I will get a wheat. Now the wheat looks like this. I would have gotten one of these, and the white and red player both would have gotten a brick to hold in their hand. So because I started off with 2 wheat and ore in the game, I have a 3rd wheat and 1 ore. After that, I can start to trade. Now when you trade, you can either trade any 4 of any 1 good for anything else. So if I had a 4th wheat here, I could trade these in and say, you know what, I'm going to trade in all 4 wheat for 1 wood. You can always do any 4 of one for 1 of another. Now if later on I ended up placing a settlement here, you can do trades like this. This says I can trade 3 of anything for 1 of something. And other spots give you specific trades. Any 2 wool from the sheep will give you 1 of anything. So if you have something on one of these coasts here touching this, you'd be able to trade that. Then there's open trading. The player whose turn it is can trade with other people. It's pretty open. Now these cards are in your hand. They're secret from other players. But you might say, hey, you know what? I'm looking for brick and I'm willing to give an ore. And someone might, you negotiate and you trade around, and sure, maybe that works out. You give someone an ore and they give you a brick. After your trading is done, you then can build things. And here's the building cost. So if I want to build a road, I need bricks and wood, and that's exactly what I have here. So I wanted to right now, I could trade these cards in, put them back in the pile, and build a road. Now when I build a road, it has to either be at the end of one of my other roads or off one of my settlements. For example, I couldn't just build a road here, for example, because I have nothing touching it, but here I have it touching at least a settlement or the end of one of my roads. Now I'm just going to go through all the other things you possibly could build on your turn. For 1 wood, brick, wheat, and wool, you could build another settlement, and this essentially gives you 1 point. Now when building a settlement, there's a few rules. Number 1, it has to connect to at least one of your roads. So I couldn't just place it here because there has to be a road. But let's say I was able to build a road here, there was one here. Then I could place it here only if there are no other settlements within 3 points. So basically, the closest point in every direction has to be free of a settlement, which in this case it is. But let's say, for example, I had built a road here, and I wanted to build here. I could not, because A, it's right next to another settlement here and next to another settlement here. It has to be completely free of settlements in all 3 directions, 1 spot away. If I wanted to upgrade that settlement to a city, I would spend 2 wheat and 3 ore, and I would upgrade it, which essentially is worth 2 points. Now, when you upgrade a city, you essentially take a settlement that you had off and replace it with this city. Now, this is worth 2 points total. This was 1 point, and when I remove it, this is worth 2, so essentially I'm gaining 1 point. Well, what does the city do? How does that differ? Well, now if a 6 gets rolled, instead of getting 1 wheat for just here, I'm going to get 2. In this case, I'd actually get 3 because I have a settlement here. 1, 2, 3, but wherever your city is, you get 2 of whatever's rolled. For example, if a 5 was rolled, I would be getting 2 brick, where the blue person would be getting 1 brick. And the last possible thing you can build is a development card, 1 wheat, 1 wool, and 1 ore. You turn that in and you get these cards. Let me show you what some of these do. There's 3 different main types of cards in that development deck. One is a monopoly card. There's only a few of these. When you play this card, announce 1 type of resource, maybe wool, and all of the players must give you all their resources of that type. There's different types of buildings that just give you 1 victory point, and you reveal it on your turn when you reach the number of points for required victory. So you sort of hide these until you're getting ready to get 10 points, and then boom, you flip them over on your turn, and you can have 10 points and win the game. Knight. The majority of the deck are knight cards. Essentially, it allows you to move the robber, which we were just about to talk about, and you can steal a resource from an owner of a settlement or city adjacent to the robber's new hex. So I'm going to go over this in just a moment, but another thing that this knight card does is interesting. If at any time you have at least 3 knights, and you have the most knights of anybody else, you grab this and place it in front of you, and it's worth 2 victory points. However, if later on somebody actually has more knights than me, they take it from me and they put it in front of themselves. That goal can go back and forth. There's one more special card, but let's say I had built a road. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roads in one big long line. Now, if I have at least 5 segments of a road and I have the longest road, meaning I'm absolutely longer than everybody else, I take the longest road card, and this is worth 2 points. But if later on somebody else has a larger road than me, they can take this away also, just like the knight card, where those go back and forth to people. Now, we mentioned the robber earlier from the knight card. Now, if any time on someone's turn they roll a 7, that activates the robber. He starts in this desert tile, and first, anybody that has more than 7 resources cards needs to draw down to basically half rounded down. So if I had all these 9 cards, when the 7's rolled, I get to lose 4 of these, and I get to decide which ones. Maybe I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and these go back to the pile. Ouch. In addition to that, the player who rolled this gets to move the robber. Now, they can move him anywhere, but let's say he moves him here. Now, as long as this robber's on here, if a 6 is rolled, this hex does not produce. So the white player and the red player would not get clay from these hills if the robber is there. In addition to that, the player who rolled this gets to steal 1 random resource from either player here, the red or the white. And in a basic way, that's how it works. You got the roll the dice phase. Once it's rolled, everyone gets resources on whatever number that is. Then that player can do some trades, and then that player can do some builds, and then the dice moves to the next player. That's how the whole game works. And you're trying to get 10 points by building settlements, upgrading the cities, getting points from development cards, getting the longest road or the largest army, and that's it. When you get 10 points on your turn, you win. So here's the difference of the hex tiles from an older version from 1999, which is the top ones here, and the bottom ones of this new 5th edition. You can see how the artwork's obviously a lot nicer, a lot more detailed. We have the different hexes here. And here you can see the different hills, and where you get the brick looks a lot more detailed and different here as well. Now we're going to look at just the 5th edition tiles. So this is all the tiles for the wheat, but the cool thing is each one of these tiles actually has some different artwork on it. It makes it look a lot nicer, cleaner, and cooler. And finally, we can see the different forest tiles, how some of them have some leaves changing color. Some of them have some animals and streams in there. Again, a nice touch for this new edition. Now, as I mentioned in my intro, Catan, wow, one of the most famous, well-known games anywhere on the planet. You know, back in, I believe, 1995, this game came out, And it really was a bookend or a start at the beginning of what's I think today known as the golden age or the modern age of board gaming. Because this game really put the Euro style game or the European style games on the map. These are one of the first games that came over to the United States and around the world with that style of playing, where you're no longer just rolling dice and doing what things tell you to do. You are rolling dice, and randomness does play into it, but there's overarching strategies and things you can do to mitigate those dice or mitigate the decisions that you make around how the dice land. And this is sort of one of the few major market games that came out to do that. And because of this game, so many other games have now followed in those footsteps, and now today we have a million amazing games that are out there. And this game earns its right in sort of the Hall of Fame of board games because of that. Now this edition specifically, well, it's updated, obviously, it's rebranded. As I showed you, the tiles look very nice and new. I like how all the tiles, even of the same type, just have a little bit of different artwork on them. Nice touch there. Looks good. The game itself, how do I say this? It's okay. It's not a bad game, but in my opinion, it shows its age a little bit. As good as it was back then, and as how many people this has turned on to gaming, which is excellent, and I'm all for that. When you play it with today's modern standards and the new stuff that's coming out, thousands of games a year, it's barely average for me at best. I can see why it's done what it has. I can see why it easily gets people in. It's easy to play. It has that negotiation or trading aspect, which people kind of equate towards Monopoly, because a lot of people are like, oh, I hate Monopoly. Well, if you like the trading aspect, then this is kind of like, it has some of that, but it's a lot faster, it's less random. So I can see how people get sucked into this game, and I'm glad for it, because it then opens their window up to all these other excellent games that are there. The game itself, for me, again, is just average, I think, for a few reasons. The theme is kind of dry and boring. You're raising settlements, you're doing cities, the cards. The game tends to drag on a little too long for what it is. I think it should typically end probably 15 or 20 minutes sooner. It tends to just drag a little bit. And the endings tend to be somewhat anticlimactic, at least in my experience, of trying to figure out who's going to get the 10th point, and then they can just turn it over, and it's like, oh, okay. It's not, I haven't seen people jumping up and down and stuff like that at the end of one of these games. So it's not a bad game, it's an okay game. If you're watching this because you've never played it and you've just heard about this game Catan, or your friends have told you about it and they want you to play it, play it. It's a fine game. If you've never played these style of games other than Monopoly and Uno and things like this, you should try this because it is definitely different. However, in my opinion, there's many other games out there that are better to get you away from the sort of roll and move or a standard mass market type of games of things like this. Some of my favorite for that example is Ticket to Ride. It's another very popular game that you can also find in the same stores you can find this at the Targets and things like that, and Barnes & Noble. Ticket to Ride is my absolute favorite game. Another one called Takinoko is another good game for just kind of entering into this sort of Euro style game that very thematic, very fun. But overall, this is okay, but there's many other better things out there these days. It has its place. I can see why it's a staple. If you like it, that's awesome. If you brought you to gaming, that's awesome. But it's just okay. And that's Catan.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.